titles, but
So a director of professional development.
yeah.
Okay, so we're going to go on the lead here, and you can see that we can go all the way, all over the place. So I like to use LinkedIn's suggestion stuff here. So director of professional, oh, look, it's in their suggestions, which tells me one thing. You actually have a job title that matters. Because 9 times out of 10, when I'm going after a new market, I don't even know the right job title. So I have an idea of my job title, and if it's not in the suggested list here, I'm not looking for, like, my job title's off, something's wrong. So the cool part is you have director of professional development. And my favorite thing about LinkedIn Premium, they'll give you a month for free, by the way, and they'll give you a month for free over and over again. So like if you go for a month, then cancel it, leave it for 2 months, and then turn it on again, like depending on how long you've got it there, they'll give it to you for free. So you can see that I have 9,000 plus people who have that exact job title that are there. That list, I would start going through that list, and I would send, and this is a trick as well. I'd go in here like this, and I would go look at this top one. So it says that she's a second for me, right? So there's somebody else that I know who's there, and they don't want you to know. Like this is the thing. You'll notice that there's a tiny little link right here that says view LinkedIn profile. That notice on this page, there is nothing that says connect. LinkedIn doesn't want you to know that you can connect with this person because they want you to send them an in-mail message and pay them for more in-mail messages. So if you open up their LinkedIn profile, which is this puppy right here, then you come over here and you find, here we go. I can actually connect with her and see what's there. Notice there is still nothing on this page that says connect. Well, if I go here and I click more, you'll find that I found the connect button, okay? So I'm gonna open that connect button right here, and you can see that I have now connected with her. I'm gonna send her a note, and the note is like key to the kingdom, right? So if I'm Parker at this moment, and I'm actually gonna send this message out right now, so Mara's gonna actually get this and connect. I'm often going to go in, I'm going to use her name because I want her to know that I'm not just some bot, but it's more than just her name, right? So I'm actually going to go down through and I'm going to look through her. So College of Holy Cross. So not only is she director of professional development, but she's actually at a school, right? A college. So sounds like somebody who would be in our target. And what I'm looking for is something that's going to connect us together. So I'm noticing here that she is a Gallup certified strength coach, and I am way into personality tests and that kind of stuff. I have the Strength Finder book right here with my different strengths right off the page. And so I'm going to go and I'm going to use that tie, that weak tie to make my connection. So I'm going to connect here and I'm going to go, Mara, noticed you're a certified Gallup, and I'm just gonna, because I'm probably gonna slaughter, I'm just gonna say certified strength finder consultant. I love Strength Finder. And notice there's no way that this is a bot because I just capitalized the word love. Like you're not gonna send that to everybody. So I love Strength Finder, and I even didn't capitalize things. I find that spelling errors actually enhance this process. So I love Strength Finder. My number one is Woo. Would love to connect and chat more if you have a few minutes. So I'll often send this as simple as that. If I'm wanting feedback about my product, I might even throw that in there like, hey, I have this new course that was developed by such and such teacher at University of Utah, and I'm really just looking for beta feedback. Would love to chat with you briefly about it and hear from an expert in that field. So then I'm going to hit send, and I would send 5 of those a day. And then as soon as I got them connected, I would start a conversation. So like, here's another guy that I'm actually reaching out to right now. And my first message to him was, hey, saw you're into no-code tools. I always love chatting with a fellow expert about that. Here's a video that I made about a cool tool that I found, trying to provide value right off the bat. So I would do 5 of those a day. That would be my strategy, would be 5 of those a day, because if you do more than 5, then LinkedIn starts to like, oh, are you like spamming everyone? So 5 of those a day. And my focus groups, my initial focus groups, would be getting these guys to jump on a phone call with me. And if I couldn't do that, I would literally start cold calling, like cold call. Like if you're not making 10 cold calls a day to these people and trying to convince them to jump on the phone with you, you're not pushing hard enough. And then after all of that, you can then decide, okay, now I know how to write a digital ad campaign because I've actually talked to 30 of these people.
I feel like I should be paying for the Will Christensen class right now. Like, where do I sign up, Will, for whatever class you're teaching? That's awesome.
That right there is how I begin the conversation around every single go-to-market. It's LinkedIn and just soft connections.
That's awesome. I'm looking at Parker's face, and I can tell just by his face, his mind is blown, and he's going to be spending a lot of time on LinkedIn.
Sales Navigator. Sign up for the free trial of Sales Navigator. They dampen you if you don't use Sales Navigator. Turn on Sales Navigator. It's $80 a month, and it's totally worth it.
Love it. Okay, so that was awesome. Thanks, Will. And it looks like there's some things in the chat as well, Parker. So take a look at those. Thanks, Taylor, for putting those name or the contact finders in there. I think those are 3 good options that you and Nate put in there. Okay,
Seamless is amazing. It'll work with Sales Navigator as well. So you take that 9,000, you hit go, and it'll find you the email address of every single person that shows up in that list.
So awesome. So. Taylor Bennett is like nodding, like, yeah, baby. Okay, you guys just saw what happened there. Now I'm going to ask for volunteers who wants to go next with their current project or current challenge, because that was just so awesome. I imagine there are going to be some volunteers.
I can go, Dave Hatch.
Okay, go Dave Hatch.
I've got a partner. We're starting a health tech. He's a clinical psychologist, and we're working to start essentially develop a software for clinical psychologist practice management. And we're trying to figure out the best way to, other than just Googling, are there other ways to find the competitive market we're dealing with and how we can analyze the competitive market.
SpyFu. Have you heard of SpyFu?
No.
So SpyFu is really cool. If you know any competitors that are actually competitors of yours,
Okay.
I love SpyFu because you can go look at their profile on SpyFu and it'll actually tell you who's bidding on the same keywords in Google as that person. So it's like a way to find competitors because they're bidding on the same keywords. So yeah, SpyFu is one way that I've done that. The other thing, this is another cool trick that I found with that, is find 2 or 3 competitors and put their names with quotation marks around the domain name. So name a competitor.
Therapy Notes.
Okay, so therapynotes.com. You take out the HTTP and the www. You just put therapynotes.com in quotation marks, then you put a space, and then you put another competitor and a space in quotation marks. Then change the search in Google to verbatim instead of the regular normal way of searching. So if you look on the right-hand side on Google, there's a thing where it says you can change that, turn on verbatim, and what you will find is other curated lists of people who have made lists of people, like common softwares. That would be one place that I would definitely look for those.
Thank you.
I'm going to jump in here. I don't know if it's a direct competitor, but there's a new business that has just started with some very high level principles in this space, but to address anxiety and mental health using video games. So I'm not exactly sure that that's what you're looking for. If so, you can message me and I'll give you the link.
Okay, thank you.
So Dave, you said that you're looking for like a competitive landscape for software directed to clinical psychologists' work management. Did I understand that right?
Yeah, practice management more.
Practice management. Okay.
Yeah, so you've heard of things like Cerner and Epicor, they're big electronic health records. So this would be essentially a small electronic health record for private practice clinicians mostly that are from 1 to 100 clinicians. And the goal is to create tools and the technology in a way that you reduce the number of support staff needed, so you can have more clinicians working and spending less time, because the primary EHRs are more and more taking a lot of effort by the clinicians to fill out the information and take their notes and tie everything together. And so the development of our tool, we're hoping to reduce the time the clinician spends in the tool, but then tie it together with all the other parts of the documentation they have to fill out as part of their regulatory environment, and then reduce the workload on support staff so they can have fewer support staff per clinician. So then you lower your cost of doing business.
Okay.
My favorite's finding software comparisons websites. Software Advice is one of the bigger ones. These guys will actually sell leads to these people, and they have an entire category for mental health software, and there's 176 of them that are here. So I'll send you this link, but G2 Crowd is another good way to go after software, any software comparison engine. Like if you, I mean, it's kind of just Googling it, right, to see what's there, but they've already got a bunch of curated lists.
Got it. Yeah, I've dealt with Software Advice and G2 a little bit, but I haven't thought of using them for this. Thank you.
I love going there because they'll find all the big people because they're selling leads, right?
Yep.
So if a company is even reasonably successful, they're going to show up on Software Advice because Software Advice will start selling them leads for everything that's there. So
got it. Perfect. Thank you.
Chad, you mentioned G2 as well. How do you use that?
Well, so G2 is a review site, right? So you can look and see what if there's an established category like practice management software, you could look for reviews, see what kind of, I mean, G2 is a very gameable set of review system, but they still get a lot of traffic. They still matter. People boast about their G2 reviews all the time, so it's a great place to check out. I also put Crunchbase. So if you're looking for Crunchbase tries to serve up competitors, but I think if you and so they're kind of hit and miss, but it's another place to discover companies that might not show up in other searches.
Cool.
Great. Thank you.
Very cool.
Like top 10 reviews, I think would be a place I would look to. Really, I think that's kind of what Will's pointing at. Anybody top 10 reviews and anybody like them are good.
they're already paying thousands. I mean, think about how many employee hours they have already paid someone to Google this stuff for you. Yes, thank you for making me a list of all of the relevant competitors in this space.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, who's next?
I've got a kind of a similar question.
Okay, Nate.
I'm doing a little bit of a consulting project for someone in the health savings account space. And with my last employer, I created a comprehensive list of everybody who was a competitor to the market, but I found them all by visiting websites of all the banks and credit unions. But I don't own that list. I don't have it, right? And so I was thinking of doing something kind of like a web crawler or something like that to return to me every URL where an HSA or health savings account is mentioned. And then I can reduce the workload from there on how to make a list of all the players in the space. Does anybody have recommendations for a good and simple web crawler or something like that? It just puts keywords, give me back URLs.
Well, let me just jump in. My credit union, when I was with Hewlett Packard, offered that. And so that's why I use them. Now they offer everything else. So I would imagine every credit union in the country, they're quite a bit different in their banking system requirements than a regular bank like Wells Fargo or Bank of America. But every credit union, as far as I know, will set you up with a health savings account.
So there's only about 1 out of every 5 credit unions that do. You can tell that by looking at the call report. But banks, it's not so easy to find. When I did the research for banks, about 1 out of every 4 banks. Now I can go visit every single website of every single bank, but that takes a long time. And so if I could use a web crawler, it would happen a lot quicker. That's why I'm asking about that.
Appify.com is a great web scraper for Google search results. And I found them literally by just going to, it was actually hilarious. It was like, how to scrape Google search results. I Googled that and they brought it right up. So Appify, yep.
Hey, Nate, is your goal just comprehensiveness with the list, or is there a particular?
Comprehensiveness, yeah. If I could find, see, I knew all the banks and credit unions. I didn't know all the health plans, and health plans are harder to find. That's another reason why I'm thinking of like a web crawler as well.
Yeah, I'd recommend you also look at conferences, because a lot of times they'll have conferences and there'll be speakers, and that's how you can get a lot of names that way as well.
I've been to a lot of those conferences over the years, but there's normally maybe 30 or 50 there, and there's about 2,500 across banks and credit unions, and I don't know how many health plans. The conferences weren't quite perfect. I appreciate that, Dave. There's no one who really had a comprehensive list. That's why I had to build my own. That's why I was looking at other options.
And then Nate, what do you want to sell them?
So actually, it's the company I'm doing a little bit of consulting for. They have a sidecar product to an HSA. So anybody who sells HSAs today, they can make more money on their HSA if they just add this to the side, and then it helps their customers save more money. So it's basically a prescription savings plan kind of thing.
You know,
Spencer Walker, would Nate, you talked to Nate once about was it a screen scraper, or I'm trying to remember, Nathan Cheever. Would his thing do that when you talk to him about that tool?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he's custom dev scraping, and his work so far has been around keywords. So he's building and drawing from like Google Alerts, and then using that to build the database. So similar.
Might be interesting to connect the two Nates, Spencer.
I was going to just comment about the event resource. Is it may be that the what you want to do is take the list of events and find if they have online programs for previous years and add that to the sites that you want to scrape. They're like, if they have a program for who exhibited or who sponsored at the event, the program is where a lot of the data is versus actually being on the floor at the event.
Cool.
I dropped, just real quick, I just dropped a link in there called Phantom Buster. It's an interesting data extraction tool. Might be worth checking out, see if it has an application for what you're looking for. It's definitely pretty robust.
And thank you,
There
everybody.
are some cool things that Phantom Buster can do.
That's awesome, Taylor. Thanks. Okay, Nate, I would suggest if you've got additional questions, reach out to the people who are offering some thoughts there. But let's put someone else in the hot seat. Who wants to go next?
I can go.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm working with Work Institute on their flagship product AO15, which is this assessment test that determines what motivates the test taker. So what we're wanting to take this to is the B2B market and use it so that employers can use it to see what they need in their work environment to help get the most out of their current employees, retain their top talent, as well as recruit more top talent in the future once they know kind of what the job is naturally giving motivators of. So right now we're trying to get as many employers to test it out for beta, letting them test it, get their information on that. So how have you guys been able to connect on that aspect?
Sorry, say what was your question again? What are you looking for?
Yeah, so I'm trying to find how how do you guys normally make good connections? Will brought up a great one that I've been working on with like LinkedIn connections. But are there any other like networking groups or anything that you guys know about that I could be a part of to help get more feedback on the product?
So who's your target market in the business? Is it the HR team or the people team?
Yeah, so like HR teams are would be my primary target, as well as like owners of company, like smaller companies that
Okay.
are wanting to get the most of their employees, that sort of a thing.
Something that could be an interesting place where you could find a lot of people on HR teams in a small area, and you can have face-to-face engagements, is go to a job fair. I mean, I know most of those people are recruiters, but they're also HR generalists typically. So you could go, some of them are bigger businesses, but some are smaller businesses. You could go booth to booth, and in between them talking to candidates, you could go through and just ask them, hey, what do you think about this? And gather some feedback. It's a really concentrated place to get some face-to-face focus group time. And they're standing there all day for the job fair anyway. So that's one option.
Yeah, that's great.
I think another way you could find connections is like OC Tanner and WorkHuman and other groups. They may have partner networks, and that might connect you with a group as well. Or maybe even their groups are ways to connect with people that are making decisions in that space.
Yeah, and who was that again? Sorry.
OC Tanner and WorkHuman.
Okay.
They're two of the premier employee recognition providers.
Also, there's a society of HR managers called SHRM, SHRM. Every state has a chapter. Find out about a local meeting of SHRM and see if you can go to that. I think that'd be a good idea too, maybe.
Great, that's awesome.
I got a clarifying question. Do you already have the survey instrument?
Like the test itself is available, yeah. And so right now, what I've been doing has been setting up meetings with decision makers, letting them take the test for free, and then kind of getting their feedback with them in like a 15-minute meeting, that sort of a thing.
So who are your competitors for the survey instrument? There's already quite a few out there that I know. I couldn't name any, but I know that the data already exists for what keeps people employed, happy, and what attracts people to a certain company for recruiting.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So a lot of the competitors we're seeing are like Strengths Finder and the Colby Index. Most of those are more psychometrics, though, so they kind of tell you who they are as a person. What the AO15 tells you is more of a sociometric. It's how you respond to your environment. So what motivates you? For me, my top 3 attributes were autonomy, predictability, and training, which just means that I like to predictability, meaning I want to know kind of when I'm working and kind of having a consistent work schedule, as well as autonomy, being able to be left to my own and work on my own without having someone looking over my shoulder, as well as training, being I like to be able to, which kind of sounds a little contradictory to autonomy. I like it when there's a new task I need to do. I like having someone nearby to show me how to do it.
So, and I can add some voice on this. I would say, yeah, definitely getting in front of decision makers, going into those groups that everyone's talked about. But I've met Cam several occasions, and the Work Institute, that test is actually really cool. Instead of it being psycho, it's totally, I mean, it's a combination of a little bit of the psychology, but more so the social, like your social interaction with people, which I think is incredible take. And so one, I voice that anyone on here who's thinking about doing a co-founding relationship, each of your co-founders should take this test.
Yeah, and I'm willing to give everybody on here a free test and just for some feedback on the test. So
I would say that one thing, just to do a slight shout out, but on the other hand, another place to go is, look, there's all sorts of local events. If you're here in the Valley, Utah Valley, you know, anytime there's like a tacos together, getting to know people in person not that Tacos Together is all about selling per se, but it's a great opportunity to get to know people and build relationships. And you'll find a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners care a lot about their employees these days. And especially if their employees if they want their employees to grow with them and think about what type of employees and environment they want best for their employees. So I think that you getting to know those owners at these events could be incredible to help you kind of foster potential leads. So outside of all the potential digital avenues, keep doing those personable ones. Those tend to oftentimes lead to referrals, and don't be afraid to mind those. That's a big thing. I think a lot of people get business from people, and we forget to follow back and just say, hey, look, do you know one or two people that this may be a good fit for, especially if it's a good experience? And I would double down on that process.
For sure. Yeah.
And
Awesome.
I think also the market you approach, like, maybe pre-seed startups are not the best place to start, but if you're like maybe growth, startups who have one round of investment and they're ready to roll, those ones might be a little more capable and ready to build their personnel and their culture, right? And so that might be a good fit as well from that angle.
Almost everybody who closes a round has part of that dedicated to hiring.
Yeah, that's a great point. Just go through a lot of the VC portfolio companies. I mean, they recently got funding and are probably going to use that to hire a bunch of people. That's great insight. Okay, I think we've got time for, go ahead, Dave.
I was going to say, would that be another angle you could take? You could go to VC companies and help, offer it through them to their invested companies they invest in, their portfolios.
Yep. Love it. Okay, I think fantastic feedback. This is awesome. Looks like we've got some more ideas in the chat, so check that out, Dallin. Who wants to be the last one to go? We've got time for one more person to share and get some feedback. Just unmute yourself and start talking.
Hey, can I make a comment, Taylor? This is like, first off, I love this format, and the whole idea about exploring tools. I think the ability to discover tools that solve problems is like kind of an unmet need for a lot of us, and a lot of people that we work with. So I created, this is not a plug, but if anybody's interested, I created a Discord server just for the sharing of marketing tools. So far, it's like me and Will and like 2 other guys. So it's not very active yet. But if you're interested in a place and you like Discord as a format, hit me up and I'll send you an invite, because it's just about sharing tools like this.
Okay. I recently heard about a marketing group that they're going to have somebody speak in the next couple of weeks or something, that maybe that marketing group would be interesting in that Discord channel. I heard.
Probably will be.
I'm glad you caught that. Okay. Very cool. Chad, how do people find that?
Well, okay, I'll just post a link. Feel free to not follow this link or bail if you don't like this, but
I think that's the first rule of internet, isn't it, Chad?
Yes. So
feel free to bail on this link if you don't like it. I like
absolutely.
it. Okay. So marketing tools, check out Chad's upcoming link.
I think there's been enough tools mentioned on the call today to like triple our current volume. So it's like, it's a little weak right now, but it just needs a little more participation. Will be great.
Okay. Well, we've got a few team members at Summit who I think will be signing up to Discord with you. Okay.
I'll solicit advice on how to offer promos and how to structure a promo for figuring out the market and that market product fit for the Madra product that we're launching. Is this a good time for that?
Yes. Okay, you'll be the last one. Give us the challenge or the project you're working on and what you're looking for, Sarah.
Okay, so it's the Madra project we talked about last time, which I got so much good advice and good resources, and some of you I haven't reached out to yet as we're figuring it out. So timing has a lot to do with it because we're marketing it to students. And as we've really been diving into what the product does, it's the metacognitive feedback. It's feedback on telling students that how much they know about what they know, which requires taking a lot of tests. So there's really a lot of work involved for a student to use this product and to use it well, which is kind of a hard sell because this is something we're selling them in addition to the class we're already doing. We're saying, here's an extra 12 hours worth of work for you to do to know. Yeah, Nate's shaking his head. I kind of feel that way as we've been really working on our messaging, like how can we tailor the smallest useful product that will give them benefit, and how do we sell them on it? And then, so in addition to the cost of their time for using it and their effort to put in to use the product, we also want to see if we can get them to pay for it. And I guess I've been tossing around these ideas of the different costs for students and that what it takes for them to get using it. Harley's putting his hands over his face too. I'm getting, yeah. So this is what we've been tossing around. It's like, do we give them a promo code to use it for free? Does that tell us what we want to know about whether they'll use it? Or is it beneficial to charge them because when you pay for something, you're more willing to actually do it and you actually have to do it to get some use? We had thought about giving them a free quiz and then a discount on buying the whole product. But I think they take a quiz and then what do they think? They're like, well, I took a quiz. That wasn't, I don't think they get enough benefit out of them to keep them using it again. That's
okay, I'm going to drop off after I make this statement because it's going to be a bomb for Sarah. My master's thesis was on attitudes towards computers as a predictor of technology competency. So if you want to chat some more, Sarah, you can reach out to me.
I'll connect with you on LinkedIn, Harley. Thank you.
All right.
So, Sarah, do you have any indicators on what kind of a return a student's going to get on their investment of time?
So the use study found that when the teachers made the students use this system, they improved in the percentile. So the nationally normed ranking of students taking this. That it's a very hard test, right? People usually score the average score is about 50%. They get like half of the questions right. It's a really hard test, this chemistry test. The U went from their average being in the 63rd percentile to the 83rd percentile. That is huge. So that's what we're trying to put in the messaging is if you do this work, you can rank, and I'm trying to be able to compare that percentile ranking to like a famous school. I haven't been able to find that data yet, but if I could be like, that puts you in the average of students at MIT, because that's the feeling I get from that. That's where I think that puts it.
Yeah, because I think like if you look, because I have no idea about motivating learning at the university for doing things extra, but I've learned a ton about motivating learning in the workplace, and I think anybody who's really involved in the LMS industry can talk a lot about that. But it's really difficult to get people to do things even when it's to their benefit, especially something that's such a heavy lift. And so you know, getting people to even consume content for 2 minutes at a time is difficult, let alone while they're at university and overloaded with school and things like that. And so I think the only way really is to, and this is the best my brain can stretch out to, is you got to sell them hard on the benefit. Is that the holy smokes? Do you want to lift yourself, you know, 10 to 20% on your scores, then this will do it. But you've got to help people understand there's going to be some time involved.
Yeah, we've got the negative one. We had a good statistic on if you get a D or lower in this class, you have a 65% chance of dropping out of college completely.
Oh, ouch!
That's kind of they're
with a stick, right?
Yeah, this class is hard, and this class matters. I don't have a good statistic for you succeeded this class and all these things open up to you.
I think maybe you look at the demographic you're targeting, right? So for instance,
freshmen.
Who are the most motivated students though? Like people are taking the MCAT, the LSAT, you know, they're taking these professional tests and they've got to get in and they want to do well. GRE, right? I think there's those people that take, or maybe it's taking the AP exams in high school, as well as taking the you know, SAT and ACT. The students that are focused or that want to do well would pay for it, right? People pay a lot of money to buy books, tutors, all those kind of things so they can achieve their goals. So I think your demographic, if you target it, you'd have a greater success in those motivated populations.
It's actually maybe a different test.
Well,
This would be your class final.
I agree with David on that. I think I was thinking you're not going to get all students to do that. You've got to find students who really want to overachieve or who are terrified of absolutely failing. And so you're going to be at the too far, like if you've got the bell curve, you're going to be at the skinny edge of both sides of that bell curve, I would guess.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that if you want to look at the lower end of the curve, then you're going to have to go to the person.
Oh, you hit your mute button, David. But go to the professor. I was thinking of marketing it heavily to the tutoring center, of putting a lot of our efforts there.
Yeah, so like you have Mathanasium, you have, you know, Sylvan, those as well, right? So places where people already go spend money, maybe there's partnerships with them, or you market in that same category to those same groups of people in that same demographic.
Thank you. Those are good thoughts for us to explore. Okay. Thoughts on charging versus making it free? For getting feedback on using the product. Like we're trying it for this summer semester. That's the time I've got. We have 3 universities, so I kind of have 3 different cohorts, and we could try different strategies with each of those cohorts. Basically, I have 3 different chemistry classes.
Well, I think once it launches, you're going to, sometimes people assign value based on how much they had to sacrifice for it. So that's something to think about. So you're going to have to play with some real price elasticity stuff. Go find an econ major to help you with that or something. But I think for summer, to get people to try it, you get them to do it for free, but then ask them how much they'd be willing to pay for it. But just most students are poor, so they're going to say free or nothing or little. But like Dave was talking about, I think you go find the motivated people on the 2 extremes of the bell curve, right? The overachievers and those that are going to fail. And then say, how much would you pay to be sure that you don't fail? Or how much would you pay to be sure you pass that into that or something?
Okay.
I think also along those lines is that you kind of have to have some skin in the game to care about what you're doing. So having like a small amount and then giving them a money back guarantee can also make them go, okay, I'll put something in, but if it doesn't work out and I don't like the product, then they'll give me my money back. But when they have that money in the game, they are more likely to take it seriously.
Yeah, I think this model, a freemium model, is not going to work well for you guys, because how do you really leverage from freemium to paid? I think you have to create the value up front somehow without free, is my perspective at least.
Okay.
It might make sense to get a few free to get some feedback, Sarah. But yeah, I think to Dave's point, a minimum charge for ongoing customers is probably smart.
Yeah, and maybe you layer it too, right? Maybe you get this core model, and then you have this advanced model, right? I don't know what it's all made of. I didn't see the presentation last week, but you could also break it up into different layers, so you could have that upsell opportunity as well.
You could also probably look at other companies that are offering test prep courses and things like that, and get an idea of pricing or pricing models from there. So you're not just shooting in the dark. Because I think if you give students a choice, what would you pay, and you leave it open-ended. I was rethinking of my advice earlier. I think maybe you say, if you could pick between these 3, right? But normally students in the moment are going to pick the most, the least expensive option. I think that's just a given. Another thing to think of is maybe see if you can talk to parents of kids that are really motivated, because parents will normally invest quite a bit more than the student themselves. So that might be something to think about.
Yeah, but reaching parents of the freshmen in this class, they're freshmen, they're going in that transition. It's a really hard class that has a huge impact on their trajectory. But
or maybe that's a way to ask the question, and instead, how much would you pay? Say, how much would your parents pay to make sure that you,
Right,
Okay.
and also there's advisors, right? Advisors talk to these to the students that are interested and motivated. So, the advisors may be able to just hey, here's a tool you could use, and if you guys provide them, examples of success and resource or white paper type things, right? That they could show to some very simple marketing material that shows the outcomes and the values that you've been able to show. That might be another way to get into those students. Is I think ancillary entry sometimes is going to be better for you from referenceable, trusted people than it is for direct marketing.
That's the plan. One of our thoughts was that we were going to market heavily to the advisors and the professors, try to see if they would make it available. And it was going to be, if you start an account in the first 2 weeks of class, you get free access to it. And we're going to be charging for it after those 2 weeks because we want them to start using it at the beginning of the semester. And then we could also be able to email them for surveys to get feedback.
Right.
Love it.
Right now. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. This is awesome. Thanks all. I did start recording into the session, so I'm going to